The tragic case of Lamar Bryant and Takeshia Eads is yet another heartbreaking reminder of how domestic conflicts can escalate into deadly violence. Lamar Bryant, a 41-year-old man from Florida, is accused of fatally shooting his wife, Takeshia Eads, shortly after she took the courageous step of filing for divorce. What should have been a legal and personal transition toward a new chapter in her life ended in an unimaginable tragedy. This case has left a deep impact on Takeshia's family, her 4 children, and the broader community. In this video, we will take a closer look at the events leading up to this devastating incident, the background of those involved, and the legal proceedings that have followed. We will also explore the broader implications of domestic violence, the dangers individuals face when leaving abusive or volatile relationships, and the systemic challenges surrounding divorce proceedings in such cases. By shedding light on Takeshia's story, we aim to raise awareness about the importance of support systems, early intervention, and legal protections for those experiencing domestic turmoil. Welcome to LAT True Crime Stories, where we go beyond the headlines to examine real cases and extract valuable lessons that could save lives. Before we continue, I want you to take a moment to support LAT True Crime Stories. Like this video to help spread awareness. Share this video with someone you love, because conversations about safety and awareness can make a difference. Subscribe for more true crime deep dives and important social issues. Bell turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Now let's get back to the case. To fully understand the tragic events surrounding Takeshia Eads' death, it's important to explore her relationship with Lamar Bryant and the circumstances that led to this devastating outcome. Lamar Bryant and Takeshia Eads were once partners who had built a life together, but as time passed, their marriage became strained. While details about their relationship have not been fully disclosed, it is clear that tensions had been escalating for some time. Takeshia had recently taken the significant step of filing for divorce, a decision that would ultimately lead to her untimely death. Divorce is often an emotionally charged process, especially when children are involved. In many cases, it can bring unresolved conflicts to the surface, particularly in relationships where one partner struggles with control, resentment, or unresolved anger. It remains unclear whether there was a history of domestic violence between Lamar and Takeshia, but it is not uncommon for cases of separation to turn violent when one partner refuses to accept the other's decision to leave. Takeshia Eads was not just a wife, she was a devoted mother of 4 children who now have to navigate life without their mother. Friends, family, and members of the community have described her as a loving, compassionate woman who was dedicated to providing for her children and ensuring they had the best possible future. Her decision to file for divorce was likely motivated by a desire to create a better and more stable life for herself and her children. Takeshia's story is a painful reminder of the risks some individuals face when trying to leave toxic or dangerous relationships. As we move forward in discussing the events leading up to Takeshia's tragic death, we must also consider the larger issue of domestic violence and the alarming reality that separation and divorce are among the most dangerous periods for individuals in abusive or controlling relationships. The tragic events leading to Takeshia Eads' death were set in motion when she made the difficult decision to file for divorce from her husband, Lamar Bryant. While the exact date of the filing has not been disclosed, it is clear that her decision was a turning point that heightened tensions between them. Divorce can be a deeply emotional and contentious process, particularly in relationships where one partner struggles with control, rejection, or unresolved anger. On the day of the incident, March 26, 2025, Takeshia was at home in her Florida residence, likely going about her daily routine. What should have been an ordinary evening took a horrifying turn when Lamar Bryant arrived at her home. Whether he had come to discuss the divorce, confront her, or whether there had been prior arguments leading up to this moment is unclear. However, it quickly became evident that this was not a conversation. This was an act of violence. According to law enforcement reports, Lamar Bryant fatally shot Takeshia inside her home. The specific details of the confrontation, whether there was a struggle, an argument, or whether he entered the home by force, remain under investigation. However, what is known is that the shooting was not an accident. Authorities have charged Bryant with premeditated murder, suggesting that his actions were intentional. The shooting occurred at a time when the couple's children were likely nearby, a harrowing reality that underscores the devastating impact of domestic violence, not just on the victim, but on the entire family. Law enforcement officials arrived at the scene shortly after, where Takeshia was pronounced dead. Bryant was taken into custody following the incident, and police have gathered evidence, including witness statements and forensic details, to build their case against him.
This afternoon, a family is grieving after this mother was shot in the middle of an Orange County neighborhood. The suspect, her husband, is now charged with first-degree murder. Today, deputies plead with other families dealing with domestic violence to just reach out if you're in any danger.
We broke the news yesterday at 4 when deputies responded to a neighborhood near Ronnie Circle and West Livingston Street in Orange County. We later learned a woman was shot to death.
Watch 2's tonight. Gabrielle joins us live from the Orange County Jail this afternoon. Tonight, investigators are still trying to piece together what happened.
Yeah, it's just very heartbreaking, and they tell us that the victim's husband, Lamar Bryant, was arrested today and is charged with first-degree murder. And just like we have many questions, the victim's family tells us they too are trying to figure out how and why this happened.
This is something that we're never going to forget. This just happened. So we need time to grieve and be there for each other.
Cordasia Page and Takeshia Bryant are sisters who are mourning the loss of their mom, Takeshia Eads. She was 42, a mother of 4 with 4 grandchildren. Deputies in Orange County found the woman shot to death at her Orla Vista home on Tuesday.
I was laying in the bed with my wife watching TV. So I heard like 4 or 5 shots back to back. Boom, 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 boom. Could have been 5 or 6 shots.
Takeshia's husband, 41-year-old Lamar Bryant, is accused of killing her. He was arrested on Wednesday and is now charged with first-degree murder.
I was the only sibling with my own dad. My other 3 siblings, that's their dad. I really don't have too much to say about him because at the end of the day, the Lord is going to deal with that. He's going to have to go before glory and answer to God. But I do know it's crazy to say my mama forgives him because just the type of person she is.
Her daughters say she was a selfless woman who always showed up for the people she loved.
It don't matter what type of time of night you called her, she was getting out of her bed and she was coming.
She was definitely like very holy. She helped everybody out. Everybody loved her, honestly.
Yeah. In 2022, Hurricane Ian flooded homes in Orla Vista, and at the time, Wesh 2 spoke with Takeshia about how she was helping her mom recover.
We didn't lose pictures and certain things last time, but this time we did. So all the memories we had, they're gone.
She loved my grandma. My grandma is not okay, but she's taking it day by day. So, I don't think nobody would want to bury their child and go through this situation.
Now, court records show that Lamar Bryant has a long criminal history, and just this month he was arrested twice but bonded out 2 weeks ago. And again, investigators are working to determine what led up to yesterday's shooting. The new court documents show the mom of 4 was trying to leave the marriage before she was shot to death.
Lamar Bryant faced a judge Thursday, accused of killing his wife at their home in Orange County.
Sir, you were arrested on a warrant for first-degree premeditated murder signed by Judge Dean. He set you at no bond.
According to an arrest affidavit, a 911 caller reported, quote, "My son-in-law shot my daughter." When deputies responded to the shooting in Orla Vista Tuesday, they found 42-year-old Takeshia Eads in the bathroom with a gunshot wound to the head. The new documents show the daughters were home when their mom was killed, with one of them saying, before the shooting, Bryant picked them up from school and stopped at a liquor store, then started drinking and driving. At some point, Bryant allegedly stopped at a storage unit and went inside. His daughter told investigators the unit is where he keeps guns, and that when he came back to the car, Bryant removed 2 firearms from his pockets and placed them on the center console. The affidavit claims when Bryant drove to the house, Takeshia was on the porch, then went into the bathroom with Bryant following her inside. All of a sudden came sounds of several gunshots. Deputies say 2 people ran out the house, and when Bryant came out, Takeshia's daughter asked him, "What's going on?" She said Bryant shrugged his shoulders and said, "Nothing," then left. Investigators added that they learned Takeshia recently filed for divorce from Bryant, but he refused to sign the papers.
That whole loss of control for the abuser is when the violence escalates.
Michelle Sprazel is CEO of domestic violence shelter and resource Harbor House of Central Florida. She says 1 out of 3 women and 1 out of 4 men will experience domestic violence, but there is a way out.
We're here and we want to help people. We always talk to survivors about if you feel it, do something about it because you are right. Don't second guess yourself. Don't explain it away that is saying that this isn't right and I need to do something different for me and for the kids.
Covering Orange County, Sanait Gebregadegis, WESH 2 News.
And if you or someone you know needs support, please call the 24-hour crisis hotline that is shown on your screen right now. That number is 407-886-2856. We will also post it on our website at wesh.com.
The tragedy highlights the severe and often life-threatening risks that come with attempting to leave a dangerous relationship. This heartbreaking case serves as a grim reminder of the urgent need for stronger protections for individuals in abusive or high-conflict relationships, particularly during separation and divorce proceedings. It also raises pressing concerns about the warning signs of escalating domestic violence and the measures that can be taken to prevent such tragedies. Following the tragic shooting of Takeshia Eads, Lamar Bryant was swiftly taken into police custody. Law enforcement officials wasted no time in charging him with first-degree murder, a charge that indicates the crime was premeditated. The decision to file such a serious charge suggests that investigators found compelling evidence that Bryant had planned the attack rather than acting in the heat of the moment. Authorities likely gathered witness statements, forensic evidence from the crime scene, and potentially even digital evidence such as text messages or phone records that could provide insight into Bryant's mindset leading up to the shooting. Additionally, given that Takeshia had recently filed for divorce, prosecutors may argue that Bryant's motive was rooted in his inability to accept the end of their marriage. First-degree murder is one of the most severe charges in the legal system, carrying the possibility of life imprisonment or even the death penalty under Florida law. If convicted, Bryant could face a sentence without the possibility of parole, ensuring he remains behind bars for the rest of his life. During these early court proceedings, Bryant's defense team may have requested time to review evidence and prepare for the case. In cases like this, defense attorneys may attempt to argue for diminished capacity, claiming that the defendant was not in a sound mental state at the time of the crime. However, given the prosecution's claim that this was premeditated, proving such a defense may be difficult. As the case moves forward, there will be pretrial hearings, where both the prosecution and defense will present motions regarding the admissibility of evidence, witness testimonies, and potential plea deals. However, in a case of first-degree murder, the prosecution is unlikely to offer a plea bargain unless Bryant agrees to plead guilty in exchange for a life sentence instead of facing the death penalty. If the case goes to trial, the prosecution will seek to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Bryant planned the attack on Takeshia and that it was not an act of self-defense or temporary loss of control. Given the serious nature of the charges, the trial is expected to draw significant public attention, particularly from advocates against domestic violence who see this case as a tragic example of how dangerous it can be for individuals trying to leave abusive relationships. In the coming months, the legal system will determine Lamar Bryant's fate. However, regardless of the outcome, this case underscores the critical need for stronger protections for individuals leaving toxic and potentially violent relationships. It is yet another heartbreaking reminder of how domestic disputes, when left unresolved or fueled by rage, can lead to devastating consequences. The tragic loss of Takeshia Eads has left her family devastated, struggling to come to terms with the reality of her sudden and violent death. Takeshia was not just a wife but also a loving mother of 4, a daughter, a friend, and a valued member of her community. Her family has publicly expressed their grief and heartbreak, describing her as a caring, kind-hearted woman who always put her children and loved ones first. In statements made to local media, Takeshia's relatives have called for justice, emphasizing that her death was senseless and preventable. They have urged the legal system to ensure that Lamar Bryant is held fully accountable for his actions. Many of them believe that the shooting was an act of control and retaliation, stemming from her decision to file for divorce, a tragic example of how leaving an unhealthy relationship can sometimes escalate into deadly violence. Beyond their call for justice, Takeshia's family has also highlighted the dangers of domestic violence, particularly the risks that many individuals face when attempting to leave controlling or abusive partners. They have spoken about the importance of recognizing warning signs, seeking protection, and ensuring that victims have the necessary support systems in place. Their statements reflect both their immense pain and their hope that Takeshia's story will serve as a wake-up call for others in similar situations. News of Takeshia's murder has shaken the local community, sparking discussions about domestic violence, the need for support services, and the dangers women often face when ending relationships. Many community members have expressed shock and outrage, unable to comprehend how a dispute between two people could escalate to such a horrific outcome. In the days following the tragedy, community members came together to mourn Takeshia's loss and offer support to her children and family. A candlelight vigil was organized in her honor, where friends, neighbors, and domestic violence advocates gathered to remember her life and shed light on the realities of intimate partner violence. Attendees shared memories of Takeshia, describing her as a kind, hardworking, and devoted mother who had so much to live for. The tragedy has also prompted discussions about domestic violence awareness and prevention, with advocates emphasizing the importance of safety planning for individuals considering leaving abusive relationships. Many have urged authorities to implement stronger protections for victims, including stricter enforcement of restraining orders, more accessible shelters, and increased legal support for those going through divorce or separation. In the wake of Takeshia's death, local organizations and domestic violence shelters have reported an increase in calls and requests for assistance, suggesting that her story has encouraged others to seek help. This case serves as a stark reminder of how quickly domestic situations can turn deadly, reinforcing the need for early intervention, community support, and stronger legal protections for those at risk. As the legal process unfolds, the community remains united in their demand for justice, hoping that Takeshia's tragic death will lead to meaningful change and greater awareness of the dangers of domestic violence. Her story has not only left a void in the lives of those who knew her but has also become a rallying point for those advocating for a safer, more supportive system for individuals in abusive relationships. The tragic death of Takeshia Eads highlights the prevalence and dangers of domestic violence, particularly during the critical period of separation or divorce. Domestic violence is a widespread issue affecting millions of individuals globally, often escalating when a victim attempts to leave an abusive or controlling partner. Studies show that leaving a relationship is one of the most dangerous times for victims, as abusers may resort to extreme measures to maintain control. One of the most pressing concerns in domestic violence cases is the failure to recognize warning signs before violence turns fatal. Some common warning signs include extreme jealousy and possessiveness, threats of harm or violence, control over finances, social interactions, and personal decisions, sudden escalation in aggression, especially after a breakup or divorce filing, previous incidents of physical, emotional, or verbal abuse. Takeshia's case is a heartbreaking reminder of what can happen when an abusive or volatile individual feels they are losing control. Her murder is not just an isolated tragedy, it is part of a larger pattern where domestic violence victims are most at risk when they take steps to leave the relationship. This case also brings attention to the need for increased support and protection for those in vulnerable situations. Many victims of domestic violence do not have access to safe housing, legal assistance, or financial resources, which makes it even harder to leave. Community organizations, law enforcement, and legal systems must work together to ensure victims have the support and security necessary to escape dangerous situations safely. Furthermore, domestic violence affects more than just the direct victim. It impacts families, children, and entire communities. Takeshia's 4 children are now left without a mother, forced to cope with an unimaginable loss. Many children who witness domestic violence suffer from long-term emotional and psychological trauma, reinforcing the urgent need for early intervention and prevention strategies to break the cycle of abuse. Divorce is already a highly emotional and complex process, but when domestic violence, control, or unresolved conflicts are involved, the situation can become volatile and dangerous. Many individuals, particularly women, face heightened risks when initiating divorce, as some partners may react with anger, manipulation, or violence. One of the main challenges in divorce proceedings is the lack of legal protections and support for individuals in high-risk situations. While restraining orders and protective measures exist, they are not always enforced effectively, leaving many victims vulnerable. Takeshia's case underscores the urgent need for stronger legal interventions when there are clear warning signs of potential violence. Additionally, the psychological toll of divorce can be immense for both parties, particularly in cases where one partner struggles to accept the separation. Feelings of loss, resentment, and emotional instability can lead to irrational and dangerous behavior, as seen in this case. It is crucial for mental health professionals, legal advisors, and support networks to provide guidance and conflict resolution strategies to prevent disputes from escalating to violence. Another challenge is the stigma and fear associated with leaving an abusive relationship. Many victims hesitate to file for divorce due to fear of retaliation from their partner, concerns over financial instability, uncertainty about child custody and legal battles, lack of emotional and social support. This case serves as a critical warning that divorce proceedings must be handled with care, sensitivity, and increased security measures when there is any indication of potential harm or retaliation. Families, friends, and legal professionals should be proactive in recognizing warning signs and providing safe exit strategies for individuals in dangerous relationships. Takeshia's tragic death reinforces the need for systemic changes in how domestic violence and high-conflict divorces are handled. Some potential solutions include stronger enforcement of restraining orders and protective measures, easier access to emergency shelters and financial aid for survivors, increased education on conflict resolution and emotional regulation, more resources for children affected by domestic violence, stronger legal consequences for domestic violence perpetrators. Ultimately, this case is a call to action for society to prioritize domestic violence prevention, support survivors, and implement policies that protect those at risk. Takeshia Eads' story should not be forgotten. It should serve as a powerful reminder of the real dangers victims face and the urgent need for change. The tragic case of Takeshia Eads is a stark reminder of the dangers of domestic violence, especially in situations where a partner is trying to leave a volatile relationship. What should have been a legal and personal step toward a new beginning turned into a heartbreaking loss of life. The circumstances surrounding her death highlight the need for stronger protections for individuals navigating high-risk divorces, the importance of recognizing early warning signs of abuse, and the critical role of community support in preventing similar tragedies. Throughout this discussion, we have explored the history of Takeshia's relationship, the tragic sequence of events that led to her murder, and the broader implications of domestic violence. Her story underscores the vital need for systemic changes, including better enforcement of restraining orders, improved legal protections for victims, and greater awareness of domestic abuse dynamics. Takeshia's children, family, and community now face the devastating aftermath of this violence, further reinforcing the urgency of addressing domestic abuse before it escalates to fatal outcomes. This case is not just about one family's tragedy, it is part of a larger issue that affects countless individuals. Domestic violence remains a persistent and devastating crisis that requires immediate and sustained action from law enforcement, legal systems, and communities. To honor Takeshia's memory and prevent similar tragedies, it is crucial that we take action. Here's how you can help. Engage in conversations about domestic violence prevention. Educate yourself and those around you about the warning signs of abuse and the importance of seeking help early. Support local initiatives and organizations that provide resources, shelters, and counseling for individuals in abusive relationships. These services play a life-saving role in helping victims escape dangerous situations. Advocate for stronger policies that ensure better legal protections, easier access to emergency resources, and stricter consequences for abusers. Be a source of support, If you know someone in an abusive situation, encourage them to seek professional help and provide them with resources to safely leave their relationship. Takeshia Eads' story should not be forgotten. By raising awareness, supporting survivors, and advocating for systemic change, we can help ensure that fewer families suffer the same heartbreaking fate. Let's work together to create a society where no one has to live in fear of their partner. This case is a heartbreaking reminder of how domestic conflicts can escalate into tragic violence. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you think more can be done to protect individuals going through divorce or leaving abusive relationships? Have you or someone in your community experienced a similar situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective is important, and discussing these issues helps spread awareness and drive change. If you found this video insightful, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more in-depth coverage of true crime stories, ongoing investigations, and important discussions on issues that impact our society. Your support helps us continue bringing awareness to cases like this. Also, please share this video with your friends, family, or anyone who may benefit from learning more about the realities of domestic violence. The more people are aware, the better we can work together to support victims, prevent tragedies, and advocate for stronger protections. Let's keep this conversation going and be part of the change.